and welcome to Kitchen a la King, the part of Shake It Up Cafe where we learn lessons from the Bible. Today's story is about Moses and the Passover. Many years ago, God chose a person named Abraham to become the leader of a great nation, made up of Abraham's family and everyone related to them. These people are God's chosen people, and they were called the Israelites. The Egyptian leader Pharaoh worried that the Israelites might take over Egypt. So Pharaoh made sure that the Israelites would be slaves to Egypt. That way, they had to do what he told them to do. For hundreds of years, the Israelites prayed to God for help and chose a person named Moses to lead them out of slavery. Moses tried talking to Pharaoh, but Pharaoh would not let the people of Israel go. Pharaoh just would not listen. God sent terrible things to happen to warn Pharaoh that he must let the Israelite people go. First, God turned all the water into blood. But did Pharaoh care? Pharaoh didn't care. Pharaoh didn't even flinch. Pharaoh sent a plague of frogs to cover Egypt. Pharaoh freaked out. He agreed to let Moses' people go, but then later he changed his mind.
Well, kind of need you guys.
Then God covered the earth with pesky little bugs called gnats. And again, Pharaoh freaked out. He agreed to let Moses' people go. But then later, he changed his mind again.
I still kind of need you.
God sent flies, livestock sickness. Ouchie, itchy, painful skin boils. Big bugs called locusts who ate all of the plants. And even total darkness. Again and again, Pharaoh panicked, agreed to let the Israelites go, and then said no. Finally, God chose a special night. God gave Moses instructions for the Israelites to get ready, and God gave instructions for the last meal they were supposed to eat in Egypt. For this special meal called the Passover, God told them to eat the meat of a perfect 1-year-old lamb that had been roasted over a fire. They were not to waste any meat. If they could not eat the whole thing, they had to share it with their neighbors. They also needed to prepare bitter herbs. Herbs are plants that have leaves used in cooking. Bread was a third part of the meal. This bread was made without yeast, so it was flat. It was called unleavened bread because it was flat, like a cracker. That night was a horrible night. All across the land, the firstborn child of every family died. But God protected the people of Israel from this disaster because they had faith, followed God's special instructions, and ate the special meal. Finally, at his wit's end, Pharaoh agreed to let the Israelites go. because they were already prepared, the Israelites hurried away from Pharaoh's land. And even though later the Egyptians chased them and tried to bring them back, God protected them and guided them safely out of Egypt. Their journey to the Promised Land took 40 years. But all that time, God loved, guided, and protected them. Now, every year we celebrate that special night called Passover, when God saved God's people. Every year, for 7 days, the people of Israel clean their houses of all foods made with yeast, and they eat only unleavened bread. On the 7th day, they have a festival to honor God. In a few weeks, you will learn more about this festival. But until then, enjoy your unleavened bread at lunch, and remember to always be ready for God. Can you say that with me? Be
Ready for God.
Again. Be
Ready for God.
One more time.
Be ready for God.
See you next week.